This episode of the School Zone podcast is brought to you by School Spirit Vending, hassle-free year-round fundraising for your school. At School Spirit Vending, we do all the work. You cash the check.
This interview was recorded live at the 2016 Texas PTA Conference in San Antonio, Texas. Now, here's Matt.
Hey, School Zone podcast listeners. Matt coming at you from San Antonio, Texas. We are live at the Texas PTA Summer Leadership Seminar. Launch is what it's titled this year. And I'm excited to have with me today the Executive Director of Watchdogs, Mr. Eric Snow. Eric, thanks for being here in San Antonio with us.
My pleasure, Matt. Thanks for the invitation to sit down and speak with you a little bit and share some of the great work that's being done in Texas and around the country through our program.
Yeah, so being a dad myself of three, I'm excited to dive into this and hear more about your program. My company, School Spirit Vending, which actually has a booth here down the road a little ways, we've been in the school fundraising space for going on 9 years, and I see Watchdogs stuff in just about every school I walk into. So you guys have been very, very effective with your program, but to be honest, I've really never knew what it was all about. So
and we get that a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited to hear about it. So give me a little background on you and how Watchdogs got started.
Sure, absolutely. Well, background on me, I'm the executive director of Watchdogs, but that's really what I do. That's not who I am. Who I am is I'm husband to my wife, Valerie, of 33 years, soon to be 34, hard to believe that. And our kids, Zach and Alyssa, our daughter's 24, our son's 26. And, you know, as it relates to Watchdogs, when we started this program back in 1998, those kids were in kindergarten and third grade. And I spent 19 years in telephone directory publishing. That was really my first act. And I owned my own publishing company for a number of those years. But back in 1998, we were living in Springdale, Arkansas. And in March of that year, on the other side of the state in Jonesboro, Arkansas, there was a school shooting. And this wasn't the first school shooting. Unfortunately, as we all know, it wasn't the last, but this was pre-Columbine. And this is the one where the middle school boys had taken some guns from their grandfather's house and stashed them out in the woods, and during school hours went in and pulled the fire alarm. And when the kids and teachers came out, they opened fire, killing 4 students and a teacher. And we're sitting on the other side of the state, that night, watching every single news station in the country broadcast from little Jonesboro, Arkansas, talking about this. And I was talking on the phone to another dad guy by the name of Jim Moore, and Jim just said, I feel like I want to be at school tomorrow. And I agreed with him. And, it kind of took off from there. The next day we found ourselves talking to our principal, who really encouraged us to move forward with this. Our superintendent came on board and really kind of challenged us to create something specific and intentional. And Watchdogs was born out of that. And I would tell you, initially it was D.O.G.S, Dads of George students, because we were doing it for George Elementary, our kids' school. It was one school. It was really grassroots. And we did it through our PTA, so there's always been a connection there with PTA. And other schools in the district pretty soon started saying, okay, what's a watchdog and how do we get one? Because these guys just started coming in to volunteer, and they just kept coming.
So you guys have been doing this almost 20 years. What was it initially? How has the program kind of morphed, going from just George Elementary to now literally all over the place?
Well, the first 4 or 5 years, we had the benefit of a number of schools in the Springdale School District, Springdale, Arkansas, that really came on board and got the vision for this. I mentioned the superintendent, Dr. Rollins, was extremely supportive and encouraging. It really took a leadership role to encourage the other principals to check this out. And of course, we had a number of principals and moms and dads, parent volunteers that sort of helped us formalize the best practices. And so from 98 until 2000 was when we formed the nonprofit. And from 2000 to 2006, really we were developing this startup kit, this program, because we had a program, but we needed to have a product that the schools could bring on that we didn't have to go on site and train them. And so we, some of the great people that we had come on board over the years, worked to create a startup kit, which is a plug-and-play program, and that actually a school can take a short training session, and just follow the guidelines and the implementation guide. You want to market the program internally that people know you're doing a watchdog program. And, it's always been the idea is to invite the fathers and father figures to take a full day off work and come in and spend that whole day volunteering in school. And sort of the magic of it is, we found out that schools do a great job inviting parents to come on, and if anybody shows up and answers that invitation, it's almost always moms. And what this program does is reach specifically to the men to let them know, number one, you are talking to them too, and to number two, that mom's not going to stand in for them on this when they have to say yes or no. And the great thing is there's so many dads that are willing to do it, like yourself, just like, yeah, tell me what I can do. I didn't know that was an option. I'll burn a day of vacation and come in and volunteer in school. Heck yeah, I'll do that. So this last year, we're in 47 states, 5,348 schools nationwide. And this last year, just right at 500,000 men across the country volunteered at least one full day in their child's school.
500,000
right.
men.
Yeah, our average watchdog school had 85 men that volunteered at least one day. And I keep saying at least one day because, we can track through surveys pretty well what the average watchdog school has. What we don't try to track, and we may be doing this in some point in the future, is how many guys spend more than a day. Because we know that a number of these guys, and some studies that we've done, some surveys, or at least over 60% of these guys will do more than a day, because there's 2 launch events every year, and you're asking them for one day, but it's sort of like you get them hooked. They come in and they go, that was a blast. I didn't know the kids would respond to me that way. I didn't know how hard the teachers' jobs are and that we could actually help in some way just being there. And they really get hooked on it. I mean, it's really fun to do it, to come in. And your kids are just at that age for just an eye blink. I mean, you know this. And I know it all too well now with 2 adult children. And anything you can do to slow that process down and get more involved in their lives where they are. They spend most of their time at school. And really, I tell dads all the time, go find out, who your child's becoming, because you're always leading them and you're always teaching them. But at the same time, they're at school developing their own personalities. And it's weird for us to go in sometime and see them in their own element and how they really are. And most of the time, it's a pleasant surprise.
Wow. So what I'm hearing you say, and what I think what is really cool about this, is it's not just about dad going and being present in their kids' school day. It's about dad doing that, but it's also about dad being there to support the school and help out any way that they can.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so, teachers, I think, we work at a lot of schools, so I feel a little maybe empowered to speak in generalizations in this way. I think teachers sometimes, even for a minute, forget how impressive what they do is, because they're working with other teachers and they're in a professional environment, and the kids, they just take it for granted. And I think they forget, and whenever a parent comes in, especially a dad, and spends an entire day there and watches these teachers and their expertise and their level of care, and get the chance to thank those teachers and give them that positive feedback, the teachers, I think, just are blown away. They didn't realize that there was that level of appreciation. And it's because, most of us drop our kids off at the front door. And we just, that's our role. We know, no, we're not bad parents. That's all that's asked of us, and that's all that we do. We drop them off, we come back and get them, and maybe go to a parent-teacher conference, maybe not. But to get in a little deeper and actually spend an entire day, I can't think of a better way to burn a day of vacation than to come in. And most businesses, we found out, actually have community service benefits built in, that if somebody wants to volunteer in something like Watchdogs, I've had 2 people tell me that since I've been here, that their husband gets paid time off from his job to come in and volunteer. But whether you get paid time or not, come in. It's a great investment.
That's cool. That's way cool. So how many schools would you guess you guys are in? You said 47 states.
Yeah, we're in 47 states, and we keep track. It's a very specific way for a school to bring the program on, and we want to provide them with all of the support and all the materials up front. Again, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, but we require every school to take a training program, and that's free. We do it 5 times a week via conference call, and they can go to fathers.com/watchdogs and sign up for that. We have also I'm doing a workshop this afternoon later on. We do workshops all across the country at state level PTA conferences, school counselor conferences, elementary school principal conferences. But a school takes that training session and they buy the startup kit. And so we have them registered. The startup kit is $415. It's a one-time fee, but they own the program after that. And the dads can buy their shirts as a shirt they need to wear when they come in. But we know because of that, we've registered 5,348 watchdog schools across 47 states that have registered and started the program. And right here in Texas, over 1,400 schools in the state of Texas are doing watchdogs. So nationwide, it's almost, and I say, 5,348, but we have another almost 300 schools that are already have taken the training program or in pre-launch, and they're scheduled to launch their programs for the very first time in the fall. So, we know this last year we signed up over 700 schools for new programs, and we're already almost halfway there, and the school year hadn't started yet.
So is there a grade level that you primarily focus in, or? Yeah,
it is. We started it in elementary school, and that's really where the most of the growth has been. So pre-K through the 6th grade, I would say it's about 85-90% of our schools. And then the balance of those schools are made up with the middle schools, 6th, 7th, 8th, however that's broken up. We have 48 schools in the country that are high schools that are doing it, but in almost every case, those high schools had all their feeder schools that were watchdog schools that fed into it, and so the dads just go, well, of course we're still coming, and so they grew the watchdog program up. Good news is we're in the process of actually developing a high school watchdog program that a high school can just bring on and launch without the benefit of feeder schools already, because the demand's there. Schools are trying like crazy to get parents involved, and working against that is the fact that it seems that as parents, we have less and less time. More homes or mom and dad are working outside. The work years, work days are longer, work hours are longer. There's just less and less time for the family and less time for school. So we have to be, very intentional about that and make sure that the time that we do spend is time that's well spent. And so we're saying, come into school, get to know these teachers, be there for the kids, and especially it's important for the men because we can't really explain all of this, but, study after study have demonstrated that a child that has a positive adult male role model actively engaged in their life is twice as likely to graduate high school as one that doesn't. Now think about that. That's powerful. A child that has a positive adult male role model actively engaged in their life is twice as likely to graduate high school. And those are studies by the Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services. Those aren't our studies. That's just that's all other considerations, applied. So we have a unique ability to impact our child's education. And, I like to tell dads, hey, that's an empowering statement, because if your child's in elementary school and the teacher comes to you and says your child's, not reading at grade level, here's the great news. You have a role in that. There's something you can do. You can impact that. And we want the dads to know that they're partners with those teachers in education. Moms too, but it seems like moms are a little quicker to get that message. And I think we know why that is. It's not because dads don't care. It's just that society has developed. 50 years ago, mostly moms were stay-home moms. Okay, and so they took that role on, but that's changed. That's changed a long time ago. So society's kind of catching up with it. We want the guys to know they have a role and to come on in, and we've got a place for you at school.
So are the dads tied specifically to their kids' school, or are there any situations where you might have dads that actually maybe work in and out of several schools because maybe one school doesn't have as many dads helping out, demographics or otherwise? Right.
We've had, we recognize there are a number of schools in the country, and it's maybe more the norm than the exemption, but that, a number of the families don't have the biological dad at home, and so we're really, from the very beginning, we focus on fathers and father figures, and so, our thing is a father is as a father does, and so if that biological dad's not available, then let's look at the granddad or the stepdad or a big brother, somebody like that. But we have had schools, and the way this is designed is for the schools to reach out to the fathers and father figures of their students. However, we've had schools that come back to us and say, you know what we did? We reached out to the Kiwanis Club. We reached out to the Rotary Club. We reached out to a men's church group, and that's up to the principal. We leave that up to them. We don't want them to think this is a program where it's going to be bringing men into the school, but if they want, it's not attached to a child. But we've had schools show us successfully that can be done, and so we let them know that's available. But ideally, just get those fathers and grandfathers, and father figures from your students to come in. There's generally enough of those guys. Yeah.
So then, does a typical school just kind of set up a schedule, I guess?
Right. So part of the training program is, a school takes the training, understands, the principal's role, the teacher's role. There's a top dog team, a top dog coordinator. The top dog coordinator in many cases is a mom. We work great with PTAs. And so, people think the leadership automatically has got to be a dad. And there's a structured way. We do 2 launch events every year. One is in the fall. It's a pizza night. Do it late August, early September. And that's where the dads and kids come in. Moms are invited too, but you have to invite the dads specifically, or it'll only be moms, because dad will go, oh, well, I don't have to go to this one. So you do a pizza night, and that's an hour event where the guys really find out what it is. There's a video they show that shows what the program looks like. Let those guys know you're going to have a schedule, that you're not just on your own, but you're always going to be working with an educator. And, they sign up that night. And there's a way, there's volunteer spot. They're here, as a matter of fact. It's a great actually, they're called signup.com now. They just changed the name, but they're a great scheduling software that's in there, and we're partners with them. The schools use them to schedule these guys. If the kit is set up such that if it says do an orientation with these guys when they come in, it's written for you in a Word document. If we say send a letter home to the dads, it's written for you. It's literally a plug and play. So The schools invite these guys out. They do the launch event. They sign up. On the day they come in, they're told who to check, in with. Usually it's the school counselor will check them in, give them an orientation, give them a daily schedule that is usually static. I mean, it pretty much stays the same from watchdog to watchdog. The only thing that's going to happen, you would do the same thing I would do if we both had kids in that school, except you would spend a couple of times in your classroom with your child that I wouldn't necessarily. But we're both going to do car rider duty in the mornings. We're both going to do car rider duty in the afternoon. We're going to end and begin our day that way. We're both going to be part of morning announcements. We're both going to be there at recess. We're both going to be there at lunch. You see what I'm saying? So we try to make it so that the guys are moving through the day, but that you don't have to recreate a brand new schedule every day. But there's just some things that, it's always great for the schools to have somebody extra at recess. Sometimes that allows a teacher to bounce and go do something else, because all we need is an adult here. They don't have to be an educator. They just be taking directions from the teacher that's on duty. So, it works out really, really well. It's very school friendly and lets the guys see what the day's like. And the schools ultimately run it. I mean, if there's anything in there they go that, no, we don't want to do that, or we want to do more of this, that's a creative environment. We encourage that.
Awesome. Very, very cool. For those of you that are educators or volunteers out there that are listening in, I can just speak, from the dad perspective, that I know in our household oftentimes it's real easy for things to be compartmentalized,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I'm the breadwinner, and I spend time with the kids and all that, but my wife takes care of a lot of the rest. So the power of being able to make an invite like this,
Right.
specifically to the dads, you don't realize the power that is, because so many dads are willing.
Right.
They just don't know that there's a need.
Right.
And are so busy doing what they have been led to do in their family that they don't think about this stuff. I tell my wife all the time, I'm not real smart. I'm not a real deep thinker. There's only a couple things I care about.
That's right.
And sometimes you just got to get in front of me and say, honey, this is what needs to be done.
Right.
I'm not intentionally ignoring it. It's not my wheelhouse. It's not the way I'm wired.
Exactly. And the thing is, it surprises people. It's counterintuitive when I tell them that most of the time when this program is taken back to a school, it's taken back by a mom. Because the conferences that we present workshops at are female dominated. I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just predominantly female. PTA, still mostly women. School counselors, still mostly women. Elementary school principals, still mostly women. We do all of these conferences, and the thing is, here's the great thing: those women that are women educators, professionals, and women volunteers, and sometimes they're women professional educators and volunteers. That's usually the way it works. They've seen what happens when one of us men accidentally stumbles through the door for a couple of hours. They've seen the change in the school environment, and they're eager to do more of that. And they know that there's eager guys to do that. They're not trying to twist our arms or shame us into it. Just, break down the barrier. And sometimes those barriers are real, meaning, well, we got work to do. Well, who doesn't? Most volunteers have carved out time, not because they don't have anything better to do. They've just been intentional about it. Or the school doesn't want me. Well, that's not true. So let's break down those real barriers and perceived barriers and make time for these guys to go in. I like to say this, and if I get this in, I want to make sure that I do. Because a lot of times, there are men out there that think that they don't have anything to contribute in the school environment. And I've gone to launch events and spoken to groups of men where, guys just, they don't see, some guys like us, it'd be easy for us to go do that, and some guys just like, nah, maybe I didn't get all the education I wanted. Maybe, I wasn't that great of a student. I just don't see myself in that environment. Here's what I'll say to them. We've learned this from educators. Our kids learn from us primarily two ways. And number one, by listening to what we say, okay, the rules that we give them, the morals that we teach them, the lessons that we talk about. They also learn by watching what we do, the examples that we set. And the great thing about kids, or the scary thing, however you want to look at it, is if what we say and what we do does not match up, if those things aren't consistent, then they're pretty much going to just watch what we do. Now, there's an opportunity there. There's a power in that, and that's where I think Watchdogs comes in, is that by coming in and taking a day off of work and a guy coming in and actually physically being there, he's sending a very clear message to those kids that, number one, he values education, that he's taking time off to work and he values education. Number two, they get to see him interact with their teacher in a respectful way, and that those teachers are to be honored and to be revered. That's the second thing. And the third thing, he sent a very clear message to them that volunteerism is an important part of good citizenship. And so I tell these guys, dude, if you just show up and you're happy and you're encouraging and you do whatever they want you to do, you've done your job as a watchdog. It's powerful. Don't minimize. You don't have to go in there and be anything special. You don't have to teach algebra class. Algebra class. I couldn't do that. I don't want to get anywhere near a fifth grade math class. But I don't want them to think that you have to do that one big thing. It's just, show up, be there. That's the big part of it.
Awesome. Eric Snow, appreciate you being willing to take some time.
Thank you, Matt.
I know you got a lot of moms to talk to here the next couple of days. and a few dads about the Watchdogs program. Any last parting thoughts before we kind of wrap things up?
No, it's just, give us a call, 888-540-3647, 888-540-DOGS. Hit us up on fathers.com/watchdogs. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We've been doing this for a long time. If you're looking for a way to get the dads of your school involved, I can guarantee you we can show you how to do it.
Once again, guys, fathers.com/watchdogs. Eric Snow, appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the weekend, man.
Thank you, Matt. You too. Yep.
Thank you for listening to this interview that was recorded live at the 2016 Texas PTA Conference in San Antonio, Texas. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would be honored if you would leave a 5-star rating and review and hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. Most teachers and administrators not only want their kids to have developed minds, but opportunities to develop creativity, positive human values, and a sense of personal excellence. But your budget doesn't allow for all of it. You need fundraising. At School Spirit Vending, we are helping a growing number of elementary schools fundraise the easy way, and we do all the work. We provide the sticker vending machine, free customized school logo stickers, licensed and non-licensed stickers like NFL and Disney, as well as tons of other fun stickers that are relevant to kids. The best part? School Spirit Vending is free. No upfront expenses for schools at all. A percentage of machine revenue goes directly to the school, PTA, or PTO each month. And did I say customized stickers? Our skilled graphics team can help custom design your school spirit stickers. You just tell us what you want. The only thing you do is provide us a busy hallway or commons area. Oh, and you'll have to find the time to cash a monthly check. It doesn't get any easier than that. 2,000 elementary schools can't be wrong. To see for yourself how easy year-round, hassle-free fundraising can be, go to schoolspiritvending.com/schoolzone.